I remember that getting off the helicopter the first time, and I'd only been on the ground 20 minutes. Took my burden off, put my hand in the side pouch to grab my water bottle, and this tarantula ran up my arm.
I remember waking up probably early hours of the morning, and there's this really weird smell. And the first thing, what the hell's that smell? And I could feel this pressure on my chest. So a snake's come up through the mosquito net, and it must have curled up on my chest.
Something that's interesting to me is, after speaking to a lot of like special forces guys, military guys, when you do the training, there's a lot of encounters with animals. And I think it's interesting for me, two British guys going out there, like, what was was there a first moment where you saw a snake or something that you was like, oh, fuck, oh. Like, do you remember something like that?
Yeah, I'll go first on this one as well. And mine's always about shit, and I don't know why, but it is. I've got two more on shits, but that's where they came out. So the first time, after passing out of training, I went to Belize. And Belize at the time in 1984, the jungle it's classed as a dirty jungle. It's kind of a lot of secondary stuff, because it's been chopped, it's overgrown, but it was still thriving with wildlife. And I mean, everywhere. And there's many, many stories. And I remember that getting off the helicopter the first time, going about a couple of 100 meters down the track, to me, all I ever knew was about Tarzan, so everything was overwhelming for me anyway, and I'm carrying a weapon with live ammunition, because we patrol the borders between Guatemala, and, it was kind of operational, but not operational, but you're up against track and poachers and all that stuff. So we're out there, and two things to this. I remember we stopped, and I'd only been on the ground 20 minutes, and it was like, get a water stop. So I took my burden off, put my hand in the side pouch to grab my water bottle, and this tarantula ran up my arm, and it's now sat on my neck, and I just froze. I didn't know what to do, and everybody's just laughing about it. And eventually somebody come and batted it off. And then 20 minutes later, a good friend of mine who's now passed away, he's sat against his burger, he's undone his top, and there's a spider going up. And the local guy is like pointing, and everybody's getting excited, and he goes, and it was a black widow, black widow. And we're like, now I'm really like, I don't want to be here anymore. Then came the point, the third thing. I need a poop. So the patrol stops, everybody gets around, and I'm looking right, oh yeah, there's a fallen log. It looked like the base of a tree, all rotted, all brown. So I'm sat, go over there, put my weapon down. I'm sat, I'm having all in conversations, and I look at this rotten log, and it looks back at me. I'm like, the fuck is that? And it was a cobra. What's it called? The big one? Python. Big python all curled up. And its little head, and it just looked like a rock. And my weapon's right there next to it, and this thing's just looking at me. His little eyes are like, and I'm like, oh, I've still got the log hanging out my ass, and I'm like that. I'm trying to shake you off. Shit myself. That's my second one. Now the third one and final one, I'll tell you. I'm now a director of DS on SAS selection. And prestige jobs as it is, you're out in the jungle, navigating, and the students are, and you've always got to be on top of your game, because if the students get lost, it's not the students, it's you, because you're the DS. And it's difficult. Like Simon said earlier, you have to know every single pace. So the pressure actually on a DS is immense. And anyway, we're going through this jungle, and they're off doing what we call a close target recce, so I'm keeping an eye on them so they don't get lost. And they've gone to ground, they think they've seen something, and I need the toilet again. And there's these trees out there called cathedral trees, and they've got like a massive web, and they're beautiful. And I thought, what a peaceful place to have a poop. So I go behind this web, and I put the bloody weapon right just out of arm's length, which you should never do. And I'm just sat there thinking, life's good, the wind blowing between your legs, and having a little poop. And I heard this scurry. And I'm like, I'm looking at the web, and it's just off to my right, and I'd see these claws come over the top. And my weapon's there, and as I go to reach for my weapon, a head comes over. It's what they call a sun-kissed bear.
Oh, sun bear, yeah.
Yeah, this bear's head comes over. It's got a big yellow V on his chest, and I'm like, ah! The bear goes, the bear just goes off on the tree. I'm looking at my weapon, trying to get my trousers off.
No way.
Anyway, I'd let my guard down on my tracking there.
Yeah.
They're my funny stories.
Quick interruption from this Billy Billingham interview. If you want to hear more from Billy, an extra 30 minutes has now been uploaded onto our Patreon community. So if you go down below and hit the button, you can sign up now for $1 for early access and additional footage from all of our guests. Let's dive back into the episode.
You're always going to have encounters, but not as many as you might think. I remember one night, and it was when I was a DS, Again, you spend a lot of nights just on your own, you know, with the hammock up between the trees because the students are somewhere else. So you go and find a nice place and it's nice and quiet and lovely long nights. And I remember I'd nodded off to sleep, and I remember waking up probably early hours of the morning, and there's this really weird smell. And the first thing, what the hell's that smell? And I could feel this pressure on my chest, you know. So I was suddenly aware that something had come in, and something was on my chest, and it's absolutely black. It's, you know, it's as black as being in a cave. And as I sort of started to register, and I thought, oh, shit, it's got to be a snake. So a snake's come up through the mosquito net, and it must have curled up on my chest. And I've never smelt the snake, but I could smell one in that confined environment. So I'm thinking now that, you know, the mind starts the panic coming in. I'm trying to well this panic down. What the hell am I going to do? Because I'm in this sort of hammock, you know. So eventually I got my hand to the side of the hammock, made sure the mosquito net was hanging out. And I just took a deep breath, and I just went like this, and I just whistled it off over the side, and I heard this plop on the floor. Then I heard this tick, 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 as it, whatever it was, I can only assume it was a snake. But
how do you then sleep at night? Like, I know obviously you guys are trained for this, but how...
It's an interesting place, the jungle, isn't it? It comes alive
you sleep
at night.
Because you're so bloody tired, normally.
You do,
Right,
and you
okay.
get used to it. It becomes actually therapeutic, I'll be honest, because there's stuff moving around, and you get to the point where you just go, you know what? It lives here. We're invading its space. As long as I don't upset it, it probably won't upset me. And there are things that your hammock will swing because something big has brushed underneath, and you're like, pretend it hasn't happened. I'm going back to sleep. If I die in my sleep. I don't care. Honestly, it gets to that point, but the whole floor comes alive. And there's, you hear, I mean, I remember in Kenya, actually, I went out to train the Scots Guards, run a jungle school for them. And it's not the greatest of jungles, but I just remember there was me, and I took one other guy with me on this recce, and we stayed out overnight, and I put up a basher, a poncho, and I just felt the whole tree move. I was like, what the hell's that? And it wasn't that dark, to be honest. And as I was sort of moving around and looked over, this elephant is like leaning against the tree. Literally leaning against the tree I'm on. I mean, it must have known I was there. And it's just like scratching itself. And then it just walked off. And I was like, but I mean, it's one of the most beautiful things ever. But when I look back, it was the shivers down my feet. And he could have just stepped on me, and, you know. But he wasn't obviously scared for whatever reason. But yeah, but it just comes alive. You just accept it and just hope that, you know, nothing's going to bite you. Or
I think it's a knowledge that all of those animals know you're there. I mean, I've spent a lot of time sleeping out in the bush in Africa and being close to lions. You know, they do this harumping sound, and it goes right the way through you. And you think, oh my God, I'm going to be a kebab for a lion, or hyenas, or something like that. And you think they know that I'm here, and they're just going to avoid me, or you hope anyway. But elephants in particular, because you generally, they've got marshmallow feet. They make no noise generally, and quite often you just hear them breathing. And if you can hear an elephant breathing, it means it's bloody close to you there. So then you're intently listening, and you'll just hear the little crackle as it moves around, and just the odd big breath. You just get the feeling of this massive, massive entity that could snuff you out with its trunk, let alone its feet.